Hi guys, Charlie Wall here on a Friday with your question of the week. I am going to talk today about the neuroscience of a habit, and by habit I mean like a habit of thought or a habit of behaviour, or not doing something that you really want to do. This is the question that I get asked the most, and I try and kind of articulate it in different ways. So I'm going to try and be really succinct today in my explanation of the neuroscience of a habit. I'm not going to use big words. I'm going to just use layman's terms and try and use this little chattering teeth to talk about the concept of the lower brain. So I hope this helps, because I do get asked this question a lot. Morning, Tara. Okay, so I work with people who have, in the main, I work with people who have anxiety, who have habits of behaviour, i.e. they maybe eat too much or more than they would like, or they drink more than they would like, or they undereat, or they take laxatives, or they smoke, or they have kind of trauma in their lives. So traumatic grief or some sort of trauma where they shop or they spend hours on the phone. So there's a sort of habit of behaviour that someone wants to get rid of, and they want to do some exercise, or they want to do something to get them out of this self-perceived slump. So I just want you to kind of look at the brain, think of the brain as a machine, the brain that we get kind of caught up in doing familiar things. So like we might have the same breakfast over and over again. We might have a cup of tea when we wake up in the morning, or a cup of coffee, depending on your taste. You will do things over and over and over again that are the same, that are repetitive. And that's very normal, and that's coming from your lower brain, the reptilian part of your brain. And if we can just split the brain just very basically, and it's really not this basic, but for the purposes of understanding your brain and yourself, I want you to just split it into two for now. We have got a part of our brain which is called the reptilian brain, which is the oldest part of our brain. It connects us to reptiles, hence the name, the reptilian brain. And I want you to think of this part of your brain as automatic. So it likes repetition, it likes habits, it likes patterns. And I want you to think of your lower brain like this, just these little chattering teeth sitting in your brain, telling you to have your morning cup of tea or your morning coffee, or walk the dog, or have your Kellogg's cornflakes, or whatever it is that you do over and over and over and over again. I want you to just really kind of think, what do I do? Yes, so for me, I might have the same breakfast over and over again, and people will say, don't have the same. But anyway, don't worry about that. It's just habits. It's habits that have been formed from your lower brain. And the reason your lower brain likes habits is because it's got your survival at its core and its core objective. So that means you need to drink water, you need to eat, we need to have sex to procreate, to keep the species going. These are all things that we need on repeat for survival. Now, that then creates a thought to do. So to have the cup of tea in the morning, I'd need to have a thought that will pop in. This is going, have a cup of tea. I don't have any thinking about that, but I automatically get up, go downstairs, put the kettle on, have a cup of tea. I kind of do that without thinking, in the same way that you might clean your teeth. There's not really any thinking about cleaning your teeth. It's just a habit, and you'll have your own specific time of the day of cleaning your teeth, right? So that's on automatic pilot. In the same way, another example is, if sometimes you drive from A to B and it's a route that you take all the time, say for example, when we used to be able to drive to work, you drive from A to B, and sometimes you might think, I don't even know how I got here. It's because you have just been out into your thinking mind, but in your automatic reptilian brain. So it's automatic, you know the route off by heart. Those neural pathways have been well formed, you know, don't really have to think about it. It's automatic. So in the case of drinking too much or eating too much or doing something that you don't particularly want to do, that's been created now in your lower brain. Your lower brain thinks you need that thing, whatever it might be, to survive. Okay, now I know I'm really making this basic, but I want you to just try and get a feel for this part of your lower brain doesn't have any rational thinking, doesn't have any rational thought. It will just create the thought, wine, or it's wine o'clock, or have that chocolate bar, or whatever it might be, and you will think that thought's coming from you and your higher self, and you'll follow it. And then all of a sudden you'll think, with your rational brain, I've got a problem, or I don't want to be drinking this much, or I don't want to be eating that chocolate bar, or I don't want to be shopping as much as I'm shopping. However, so that will come from something else. That will come from your kind of your higher being, your true self, you know, the wiser part of you that we've all got. But the lower brain will keep creating the thought to do your habit. And this includes habits of thought. For example, anxious thinking, okay? So here we are, here's creating the thought, have the wine. Your higher self is going, I don't really want the wine. And then what happens is you have this battle. And it feels like a battle between good and bad. But it's actually a battle between your lower brain demanding you do your habit and your higher self going, I don't really want to do this. But this feels more stronger and more overwhelming. So hence we say, I know what to do, I just can't seem to be able to do it. And it's because we don't understand that those thoughts to do the habit are coming from this lower brain and not you and your higher self. Now, the other part of this that I want to talk about is when we want to create a habit, i.e. if we want to do exercise, we will get the thought, I want to go for a run, right? Let's do that. I want to do couch to 5K. I want to go for a run. Guess who steps in? Your lower brain. And your lower brain will tell you 1,000,001 reasons why you shouldn't do what you want to do. So that might be clean the house, or it might be do this big project I've got to do, or it might be go for a run, right? Lower brain's going, oh no, don't want to do that. And the reason it does that is because it also has your survival at its core. It wants you to survive. But the lower brain thinks that it's going to take huge amounts of energy to go into your higher brain, which it will, until it becomes a habit, until it becomes automatic. But your lower brain wants you to not use any energy in your brain because its sole survival is energy saving, right? So you might get the thought, I want to go for a run. This will step in and go, oh no, do it tomorrow. It's too wet, it's too cold, you're too old. Like whatever it throws in. And you literally just have to go, no thank you, and do it anyway, right? And you'll have to fight this little fucker, I call it, for a few days, maybe a few weeks before you make it a habit. So that is why often you might want to do something. You might want to clean, you might want to do a project, you might want to run, you might want to join a class, like whatever. You might want to do some yoga. And your lower brain will constantly tell you not to do it because it thinks for your survival, you don't want to use the energy from the frontal cortex, which is our decision-making part of our brain. So until you can make it habit and you realise this isn't you, then it will go away. I mean, this will always be here on some level. It'll always tell you you're crap, you're shit, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's always lying. It's always lying. It's never telling the truth, ever. I go into this and much more on my freedom program. And I have a free group, a free support group where I do these, I talk a lot. And anyway, if you have any other questions, type them in the comments or send me a message, and I'll talk to you next week, hopefully. Mwah. Bye.